Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the ZModeler pieces here. So you can kind of see the only pieces I really form refined at this point was popping this piece off that goes right down the middle here and then the leather strap that goes over it. These quick ZModeler pieces we're going to do are just insert mesh brushes to kind of block out where eventually I want my high-res pieces to go. So let's go ahead and do that. So we know we have cylinders that need to go on either side of his boot. So let's go ahead and make that. I'm going to go out of edit mode, hit Control N to clear my canvas, click the simple brush here, and then when you click the simple brush, you're going to see a bunch of primitives in here to start with. I'm going to click the cylinder, drag that onto the canvas, go back into edit mode. If you hover over this, you're going to see the hotkey for going into edit mode is T. And now we're going to go here to initialize. I'm going to turn on polyframe, and this is way more resolution than I really need. So I'm going to knock this down to like 12 or 16. Let's try 12, and I'm going to hit tab, and the V divides. I can just grab the slider and pull that down to the minimum, which in this case is 3. That'll give me a nice simple cylinder here. I'm going to go ahead and make a polymesh 3D. This turns it into geometry, so you're going to see my initialize options went away, and now I have ZModeler initialize, which we get into in the ZModeler video on my YouTube channel or Gumroad, QBrush, all that good stuff. So with this cylinder here, I'm going to hit W, tap on this to find that surface normal, hold down shift, and now I can just pull this bottom one in here, and we're basically doing a non-uniform scale with the move brush. So I can just make this as big or as small as I want to. I'm going to hit Q to go back into draw mode here, which is this button here. I'm going to grab my ZModeler brush. I have that under a hotkey, but for you it would be BZM. That'll grab your ZModeler brush. And with that, I can hover. You're going to see as I hover over different components, it's going to give me different things that I can do. If I hover over an edge, hold down the space bar. Right now it's on Insert Single Edge Loop. I'm going to change that to Bevel Edge Loop Complete. So bevel for my edge actions, target as Edge Loop Complete, and now I can click and drag on this to go ahead and just add a bevel there. Now if you want to go ahead and inset this top piece, one thing I can do is hold down, hover over a face, hold down space bar, and we're going to go to Inset Polygroup Island, because these are all one polygroup. So if I do inset polygroup all, and we don't want to inset each poly because that's going to actually inset each polygon there, which you might want to do for certain instances, but in this case I want to hold down spacebar, do inset region. Now if I do polygroup all, it's going to inset a region for all these light blue polygroups, but if I do polygroup island, what it's going to do is just isolate this one polygroup island and inset that region. And I can hover over a face, change that to Q mesh polygroup all, and because I've only got one red polygroup, polygroup all will go ahead and just affect that one polygroup here. So you can get as fancy as you want with your insert mesh brushes. If I want to also, I can go into geometry here, and under the crease options there's a crease PG, and also under the geometry options there's dynamic subdiv. So if I turn this dynamic button on, it's going to give me a preview of what it would look like if I actually went and hit this divide. You're going to see I hit divide, now I have subdivisions. If I hit dynamic preview here, it's going to go ahead and subdivide it as just a preview, and I can go over here to the smooth divisions and I can increase that or decrease that as needed. So what I want to do is go ahead and crease some of these edges to kind of maintain the forms. You're seeing it's averaging these vertices down here and it's going to be kind of a blobby shape. I want to avoid that. So instead of going over here and toggling this dynamic on and off, I'm going to be hitting D to toggle it on and Shift D to toggle that off. Now I'm going to go over here to my crease menu, and you're going to see there's a crease PG. What that's going to do is add creases around each one of my different polygroups. So if I zoom in here, you're going to see there's a double line here. Oops. Little double dotted line here, double dotted line here, here, and here. Wherever there's a polygroup border, it's going to crease it for me. So if I hit D now, it's going to keep those nice and creased as I turn polygroup off. It didn't crease, if I do Shift D, it didn't crease these ones here because these aren't two separate polygroups. You can make them two separate polygroups if you want to, or what you can do is grab this crease tolerance, drop that down to like maybe 60, and then hit crease, and that'll take any angle threshold greater than 60 degrees and go ahead and crease those for me. So now that we got that the way we want, we can hit D to preview it, looking pretty good. If I want to go ahead and capture this, hit Shift D as a insert mesh brush, all I'm going to do is go ahead and snap to the view that I want to see it as I draw it onto the object. This will make more sense as we continue onto the process, but I'm going to hit B, create insert mesh brush, new. So now when I hit B at the very bottom here, you're going to see a new insert mesh brush with our insert mesh brush there. And I'm going to go back to my model here, and we're going to Alt-tap this piece we want to work on here, and I'm just going to replace this thing here with a new cylinder that we just made. So I'm going to hit B, make sure that brush is selected, and just click and drag, and I'll go ahead and drag that cylinder right out there. Hit W to go into transpose mode, hold down Shift, and just constrain it right back there. Now if I want to go ahead and split this off into its own subtool, you can go to Subtool here, and you can go ahead and do a split unmask points, and then if you Alt-tap your cylinder, you're going to see, I'm in standard brush now, you can Alt-tap the cylinder, and you can see it, and you can go ahead and hit D to dynamic preview this. Now if you're on your Dynamesh and you hit D, it will give you a dynamic preview, but it's going to be very, very slow to sculpt on because it's a lot of polygons. So I would suggest keeping dynamic off. And if it ever gives you that, you can go down here to fix mesh like it says, and then I'll go ahead and fix it. But we don't want to use dynamic on this object. We want to keep that off. In fact, a lot of times you'll accidentally hit D and then try and sculpt on it and be like, oh my god, my performance really tanked. Go in here to Geometry, Dynamic, turn Dynamic off, and now it'll be nice and responsive for you. So anyway, I'm going to hit Alt to go ahead and isolate that. We can get solo, looks pretty good. I'm going to Alt-tap this boot here, and then go in here with my standard brush and just kind of knock back the original gross cylinder that we had, because we replaced it with a nice new one. Now if we want to go ahead and add that cylinder to this side, what I can do is hit B, grab that insert mesh brush again, go to the side here, and kind of drag that out, go into R to rotate this, and go ahead and rotate this around, hit W, push that back in, R to rotate, click and drag, and you can kind of just go through and use transpose to position this thing correctly. Push that back in, W to move, and there we go, we got our new cylinder in there. I'm going to do a very quick hide point split hidden in my custom menu. You can do click split unmask points if you'd like.